Come one, come all to the SuperShow podcast, episode number 139. That's right, it's the gaming podcast that's all about video games. I am your host for this week, Jamie. I am joined by two esteemed members of the SuperShow cast. On the one hand, I have my good friend, Mr. Chris Joanidis. How are you, sir?
I am good. I'm getting a sense of deja vu, but I am good.
Yeah, and the reason you're getting a sense of deja vu is because, on the other hand, to my other side, I have the other cast member of the Super Show, a very naughty boy, Mr. Alex Jones. How are you, Jonesy?
Feeling cowed right now.
Yeah. So let's peel back the sticker on this one a little bit, shall we? I don't know if that's a saying, but I've just branded it. It's real. It's happening. Start using it. Spread it. Hashtag it. As we're recording this, as the boys and I sit here talking to you, it is 12:30 at night, and we have just finished recording an entire episode of the Super Show, episode number 139. Now, some of you might be scratching your heads, because that's exactly how I just introduced this recording that you're now listening to, and that's because, regrettably, Jonesy forgot to hit start recording when we began our initial take of this very podcast. The other elephant in the room is we don't exactly know at this point in time when he started recording again. So essentially, we are here to tell you that you are not going crazy. This is episode number 139 of the Super Show. I promise you, it is an action-packed, star-studded, one of the best episodes we've ever recorded. It's all about games. We talk about loads of exciting things. I just need to warn you now that the next couple of minutes might be a bit choppy. Things might seem out of whack, out of order. If I make some good jokes, I might still keep them in there, even though Jonesy won't be there to laugh at them, for example. But if you stick with it and bear with us, within a couple of minutes, we will get back to the nitty-gritty and we'll be talking about all things gaming. Is that fair to say, lads?
Can I put in a request?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe in the bits where Jonesy's meant to be talking, but obviously it wasn't recorded, you just do a voiceover on his behalf.
Just do impression of me.
If I've got enough time, I will have a couple of bits where I do something. The issue we've got is there's a video version of this podcast and there's an audio version of this podcast, and some part of me is dreadfully concerned that someone's just going to hop onto Spotify one day, innocently start playing this episode, and then go, "Why does Jonesy sound like this?" Which, for anyone wondering, that is my Jonesy voice.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
but you know what? We'll figure it out. Jonesy, anything to say for yourself?
I was going to say the majority of our audience are probably happy because they're like, amazing. We don't have to listen to the Jonesy talking.
Oh, come on.
20 minutes of the podcast.
Nonsense.
It's just going to be Chris and Jamie. But I think my fat fingers double click the record button on OBS.
Alex Sausage Finger Jones.
I don't know. I think it's like, I thought it was like 10 minutes, but maybe it was 20 minutes. I don't know. We get so into these conversations, and we were talking about our first news story, which was in fact Cyberpunk, which obviously I was so enthralled in the discussion that I didn't double check
Jonesy,
everything.
You know what? It happens to the best of us. Don't beat yourself up. Just don't ever, ever, ever let it happen again, because otherwise you're out of the Super Show.
Do it again, son.
You heard it here first.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
No, do you know what? The show must go on, and what we can guarantee you is that what will follow this is, regardless of what state it comes to you in, over 90 minutes of gaming discussion goodness on all kinds of interesting topics and discussing new releases and all the stuff we usually do on the Super Show. I just bear with us, because as I finish talking now, I have no idea what's about to come next. But unless any of you two have any final parting words as we go back to our past selves, I will bid you adieu and just say enjoy the Super Show. Come one, come all to the Super Show podcast, episode number 139. That's right, it's the video gaming podcast about video games, and I'm your host for this week, Jamie. Joining me, taking a sip out of a novelty-sized mug, or maybe that's just the man holding it, Chris J.
Wow,
how's it going?
Thanks.
That mug does look big. That wasn't meant to be a short joke, but
that's a optical illusions.
Is that Bruges in like the film In Bruges? Why has it got two G's?
That's how you spell Bruges, you dickhead.
Ah, there you go. That's by the way, for anyone wondering, that's a visual mug joke that you will have only have picked up if you're watching the video version of this podcast on YouTube. More on that later. Because the other face that's joining us that you'd only be able to see on YouTube is the face of my good friend, Mr. Alex Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. And can I just say, it's amazing how naturally funny you are while remaining so humble. And I think that becomes more and more clear whenever it's go time on the Super Show.
And hey, how about let's call it go time now, because we've got a gaming podcast to record, and we can't have a gaming podcast without talking about games. That's exactly what we plan on doing over the next unspecified period of time. It could be an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Depends how lucky you get and how tired we get. We'll find out as we go. But what I can promise you is that some of, if not all of the following will be discussed at some point. So you can look forward to a little chat about CD Projekt Red, who had their first Night City Wire broadcast in quite a while, and we got to see what the future of that rather troubled game looks like. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty on that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Ubisoft. They may have a live stream, a showcase coming up, I believe, this weekend, but that hasn't stopped them continuing to be perhaps the leakiest company on planet Earth. We can talk about the latest there. And of course, the biggest public fight since Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. No, there's no point in trying to turn that into a bit. Xbox and PlayStation, and more specifically Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan, have been at each other's throats this past week, and it's all about Call of Duty. We're going to get into the hows, whys, whos, and wheres, all in today's show that is available both on YouTube in a video format. If you want to look at our faces and watch our lips moving as we say the words we say, you can do that. Super Show Pod on YouTube. That's the same place that you can find us over on Twitter. If you want to get involved in a little bit of social media shenanigans, you can tweet at us, you can DM us. Chris usually reads them. Distinct lack of dick pics recently. It's been a desert, the dick pic desert up in there. So if any of you want to fix that and make Chris's day, make Chris's weekend.
The great dick pic drought of 22.
Oh, exactly. You know, people talking about how you can't use hose pipes anymore because we're experiencing a water drought. Let's talk about the real drought, the lack of Super Show fan penises that are scanned by Chris's eyes.
Oh, what a joke. Tough to contend with.
It's also tough to contend with podcasting platforms. There are so many of them. Which one do you choose? Where do you go to get the audio gold that this podcast provides? You could go to Spotify, you could go to iTunes, you could go to Google Podcasts, you could go just about anywhere. What I'm going to say is go where your heart takes you. Pick the one that appeals to you the most, and I'm sure you'll find this very product there. You can listen to it, you can leave a rating or a review or however that platform works, and it will all in the long run be appreciated and lead to single-digit improvements in the number of people that listen to the audio version of this podcast.
Yeah, negative single digits.
Yeah. Speaking of negative single digits, ever heard of Paisley Radio? That's right. You can listen to this podcast if you should so desire via digital radio. The place to go to do that is paisleyradio.com. It's broadcast out on Thursdays at 10 p.m. It's repeated if you miss it on Mondays. That's right. This is a broadcast that's so exclusive, you can miss it. This isn't some VOD, I missed the Twitch stream yesterday, so I'm going to check their recent broadcast playlist bullshit. Be there, be square, paisleyradio.com. And if you miss it, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to watch it on the tens of other places it's going to be stored indefinitely. Lads, should we get right into some gaming news?
What? You're no joke about fucking raw dogging it.
I mean, when in Rome, right, you do as the Romans do, and apparently the Romans loved eating grapes and fucking each other up the arse. One of those things is a thing you can do in the game Cyberpunk 2077. For anyone wondering, it's not the grape eating part, it's the gay sex part. You can fuck the men up the arse.
Yeah, you can do that. That's cool.
Lads, we were infamous back in the day for the extent to which we talked about Cyberpunk 2077, both pre-release and post-release. But I'd like to think, in true Marvel's Avengers fashion, we have given it enough breathing room that it's fair to return to it, especially now that CD Projekt Red, the Polish developers behind the infamous title, have also returned to it. There was a Night City Wire live stream this week. They talked a lot about what's happening in the game. They talked about the anime that is coming to Netflix very soon, the name of which is
Edgerunners.
Edgerunners. They talked about the latest update to Cyberpunk 2077, 1.6 to us normies, or the Edgerunners update if you want to get all up in the fiction. They also talked about the future of the franchise, and let me get to the point that everyone's waited to hear about for a long time, the first expansion to the game, which is officially titled Phantom Liberty. It is described as a spy thriller expansion that will see the return, yes, of the one and only Johnny Silverhand, played, of course, by Keanu Reeves, who has come back alongside a new cast of characters to record new lines for
a shit ton of money.
And probably a shit ton of money, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They just spent all the money they made selling this fucking I'm not going to call it hot trash. You can't call it hot trash anymore. Previously, hot trash product to fund the return of Keanu Reeves.
Again, I don't think that's fair.
Why?
Because I don't think it was hot trash. It had its problems, sure, but I don't think it's hot trash.
Do you know what, Chris? I pressed you because I wanted to. You said you're right. Cyberpunk 2077 is not, and in fact never was, a hot trash game. It's a good video game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which actually makes the prospect of an expansion, a spy thriller expansion, no less, pretty exciting, especially when you consider that this expansion, and I'm going to jump the gun a little bit here for the sake of this conversation, a future update, whatever patch 1.7 ends up being called, are going to be exclusive to the PC, the PS5, Xbox Series S, and Stadia. And for anyone that wasn't keeping notes there, that means that, yes, when this expansion that we're talking about comes out and the patch comes out alongside it, the previous generation of consoles will be left behind. Cyberpunk will effectively, in terms of its current iteration, be a next-gen exclusive product. It is a raw deal, like when you consider that at launch, this game wasn't next-gen at all. It was only, for PS4 and for Xbox One. But it's also one of those things where selfishly, there's a part of me that feels like that's the sacrifice that needs to be made for this game to technically accomplish everything it's hopefully capable of accomplishing. Chris, is that how you kind of see it as well? From an admittedly slightly selfish
perspective. Yeah, but isn't that kind of what they said though? That like in order for them to get the game to their like the vision and the standard that they wanted, they had to kind of like trim the fat of last gen consoles, right?
Yes, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Look, for me, it's a bit weird because I never had it on console; it was always on PC. So it's like, in a way, I always had the best version of it. I'm keen to kind of jump in. Like the funny thing about like watching that trailer. First of all, you messaged me and Jonesy on the group chat like, anyone watching Night City Wire? And I was like, Night City Wire?
What year is it?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on now? I had no idea that was a thing that was happening. But yeah, pleasantly surprised watching that little teaser trailer because it wasn't very long. It was just kind of like a little bit of a vignette and a plot setup, I guess. But yeah, it's just something about those visuals and like a banging like techno soundtrack that's like, yeah, okay. It kind of fires the synapses in my brain that just like, gives me a little bit of a direction.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know how else to put it. I'm hard for Cyberpunk, even though Cyberpunk's not hard for me. Is this DLC meant to be paid? Yeah,
I believe it is. This is the kind of traditional CD Projekt Red style expansion. So they say that they always do the thing, free DLCs, they call them, paid expansions. So this is, the thing The Witcher 2 had 2 of. Does that change things for you, Jonesy? Because now you're looking at the prospect of, maybe you might have I don't know if they've put a price. Let's say it's a nominal, Chris, while Josie's looking that up, let's say it's like a nominal like £20 fee. Does that, change your view on whether or not you want to dive in? And does it also, like, what would your strategy be to, like, with regards to your current actual core Cyberpunk playthrough? Would you try and finish it first, or?
Yeah, it's kind of like if I can't finish that game, there's no point in me sinking money in the
right, because you've got theoretically hours of content that you still haven't seen yet.
Yeah, exactly.
That you've already paid for.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to finish it. I just don't know. Fuck, I just don't know if I'll ever find the time. But yeah, the thing is, like, if you like Cyberpunk, like as a core experience, and you haven't finished the game, like you don't need to buy the DLC just because it's a shiny new thing to get a good Cyberpunk experience. Like story-wise, I think is maybe the strongest thing that was happening in Cyberpunk, even post like next gen patch, right? Like it was the story that was the good thing about it, and then it was the bugs and some of the gameplay systems that was the bad things about it. So as long as they sort out the gameplay side of things, and like, okay, fine, I can deal with cops spawning behind me. I struggle with the quality of the driving simulation in that game.
Sure.
Yeah, but like other than that, like I'm kind of hopeful for a redemption story, but I just don't think people care. It's just I don't know. I mean, I have no way of knowing, but just the sense that I get is like everyone's like, yeah, okay.
This is the kind of the thing that I was going to maybe move on to and get your guys' thoughts on it. I don't mean this to sound negative, but it's just kind of my feel on this based on everything they said in this recent Night City Wire. So we've got the expansion, and it sounds like we're all relatively interested in what that has to offer, like you said, Chris, in story terms, and the idea that this hopefully will just be another example of CD Projekt Red doing what they do best, which ultimately often resides in the writing side of things. And if they nail that, this could be great. It could be worth the price of admission, so on and so forth. But as we mentioned, recently they launched a patch 1.6 or the Edgerunners update that has fixed a bunch more stuff. It's added some weapons. It's added some outfits. It's added a transmog system now, so you can finally wear one set of things and look like something else, so people can actually live out their cyberpunk fashion dreams. But one thing that I thought was interesting was what Jonesy said to me just then, which was that he dove back in for the next gen update to play it on PS5, which of course then for Jonesy, that would have been the most, at the time, the most up-to-date version of the game, the most up-to-date version you played. But that was also launched alongside a really significant patch, one that actually came after I'd played the game to completion.
Was that 1.5?
I think it was. Because I remember thinking, there's no good time to jump in and play this thing, and I went in and played it, and I finished it like the week that the new patch came out, which I think was also what saw it came to next gen. I think Jonesy, you just said that you went there and you played it, and the car simulation still wasn't quite up to snuff, and the police system still bothered you. I think that you already played a version of the game that was significantly better in relative terms to the version that launched. And it didn't really move the needle for you. And I think that's going to happen with 1.6. I even think, despite the references that you pointed out earlier, Jonesy, to an overhaul of the cop system and vehicle-to-vehicle combat supposedly coming in patch 1.7 once it's next-gen only, I don't think that those are going to be instrumental and completely overhauling changes and additions. And I think the idea that Cyberpunk could do a No Man's Sky and could keep being patched for 4 or 5 years, I think will die out over the course of 2023. I don't think we're going to get much after 1.7. And I think we're already looking at the bones of what this game is going to be indefinitely. I don't know if that's a negative take, but...
I agree with you.
Like, are we at the stage where we can admit this game will not just keep being patched and updated until it's everything we hoped and dreamed it would be?
No, like it's not going to be a No Man's Sky, right? Like they're not going to have the longevity. They're already moving on to multiple Witcher projects. Like, and I think that's why they're saying that this is probably the only DLC, because they're just like, you know what, it's out there. It is what it is. People have formed their opinion. To try and sway them would maybe take a lot more effort than they're willing to put into it. They've made their money from it. Put out a DLC because they said they were going to do it. They had these ideas. Maybe there's a bit of passion involved. Maybe there's still a bit of business sense to do it. And just leave it at that. I just want a world where I can wear my Cyberpunk jacket and not feel ashamed out in public.
I'll be honest. I think if we learned anything from some of our conversations last week, you'll be able to wear that jacket with pride in about 20 years' time when the Cyberpunk 2077 from the ground up remake arrives for the PlayStation.
But this is the thing. Yeah, PlayStation 76 brought to you by Bethesda. Oh, interesting. No, the thing is, like, it's like I said, like watching that trailer, you can't help but get hyped because that heady mixture that they've got of like that cyberpunk aesthetic, what the game does look like, because it does look gorgeous when it's working, and that kind of soundtrack, and you almost transported back to that early build up and that early hype, and it was such a fucking flying high in terms of a gaming fan, right?
So high.
Pre-release, basically. And it's kind of like, I watched that, I'm like, man, what could have been?
Yeah, I get you, but yeah, I don't know. There's still a part of me that thinks what could have been and what still may be, but I also I'm hearing both arguments, and
okay, but what about you, big man? Like, where you sit on it?
I think I'm a little bit more pessimistic than Jonesy is, to be honest. And which isn't to say Jonesy was naively optimistic. I just think that Jonesy is kind of like glass half full, which is totally fair because it's a game that in some respects does deserve a glass half full outlook. There was one thing, for example, that caught my eye this past week, alongside the Night City Wire, was one of the CD Projekt Red, sort of more senior CD Projekt Red employees, having a back and forth with someone on Twitter about why New Game Plus will never be a thing in Cyberpunk 2077. A thing that, without pointing fingers, a lot of other RPGs and a lot of other games of that nature have been able to implement over the years. Not always at launch. It is very commonly seen as a thing that's patched in after the fact.
Yeah.
But they were just, they were going through a laundry list of things that they saw as reasons why they couldn't implement a feature like that. And some of them were kind of technical, and some of them were a little bit more sort of like heady, and a little bit more about, well, this part of the game would be completely like redundant if you were this powered this way, and this part would be too easy if you would do that, and if you had this double jump at this stage you could go out of that. But it also just sounded like these are technical hurdles that you guys feel like you can't go back and address because of the way the game was built to begin with. And it was this weird reminder of some of the conversations we had alongside some of the early patches, and alongside us sharing some of our first thoughts about this game, which was that, like, fundamentally, Cyberpunk occasionally feels like a game that wasn't built on a strong enough base, with strong enough technical foundations for them to make what a lot of people wanted this product to be from day one.
Yeah, we said that like the game systems were quite clearly broken, inherently broken, and like
they were just missing though. That was one of the biggest things. They were completely missing.
Or like the police system, which, you know, from day one has been a thing of like, we're going to spawn in police near you when you're not around. We're going to spawn them in behind you, which means that if you get in if you're on a 6 by 6 feet rooftop with the wanted level, like, cops are just going to infinitely spawn 3 feet behind your back whenever you're not looking that way. Also, the police can't drive, so there are no car chases. If you're wanted level and you just drive, you'll lose your wanted level. Little things like that. And I remember we would speculate very early doors about when something like that might get fixed. And like, there was some idea, you know, back when they got through the hotfix stage, that the first time they do like a 1.1 or a 1.2, something like that might go away. We're now at 1.7 being on the horizon and talking about how great it is that they're going to stop supporting the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One so they can patch something in that was like really negatively received by fans on day zero. And that for me is sort of like representative of everything that Cyberpunk is and everything that Cyberpunk will be, which is a fascinating game, some phenomenal writing and some phenomenal storytelling, wrapped up in a technical mess that they've slowly picked at and improved upon, but that will never quite be everything that we thought it would be. And that's fine, but there is a lesson to be learned there, I guess, hopefully, on both ends of that spectrum.
I think there's a bigger thing with all of this moving to next gen, etc. Is like, how is Stadia still a thing?
Bro, the Google have the world's most powerful supercomputers. They could just run Cyberpunk on the supercomputer and beam it to you.
The funny thing is, for a lot of people, Stadia might be the only way they can play Cyberpunk the expansion, Phantom Liberty, if they want, because they're not going to be able to play it on their console if they've got a PlayStation 4. So they're going to have to, or an Xbox, they're going to have to go out and get a Stadia account just so they can play it.
It was the Stadia master plan, baby. Google wrote it up this way from the very beginning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Step 1, make sure Cyberpunk is a bit of a donkey.
Exactly. Google wrote a fat check to CD Projekt Red so they could technically fuck up Cyberpunk and make it so the Stadia was the only viable platform, the platform for the future. But Cyberpunk aside, Chris, I don't actually know how to answer your question. I don't really know how or why Stadia is still a thing. There was a tweet that going around the other day about, like, Stadia had committed to releasing 100 games this year, or having 100 games on Stadia this calendar year, and it's September and they're at like 40.
I mean, I'm surprised they're at 40. Gobsmacked, actually.
Yeah, but they're probably at the stage now where they pay you if you want to put a game on Stadia. They're like, no, we'll promise, you port it, we'll give you the money. Come on. We're Google, we're good for it, I promise. It's not no.
Yeah. We'll give you a Pixel phones for everyone.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad deal, actually.
I like my Pixel phone. Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. Also interesting to point out there, just going back to a slight previous conversation we've had on this podcast, that they are considering Xbox Series S as a next-gen console. What do you think about that, Alex Jones?
I mean, it's halfway there, so fair enough.
It's more than you gave it in the last conversation we had about it. So fair play.
Oh, I don't even remember the last conversation we had. But it's how could they not? Like, how could they not include it on the Xbox S? Like, XS. Which one is it? The X. The S.
The S. The S is the lower powered one
S.
without a disk drive. Yeah.
Yeah, how could they not? Imagine if they'd have said you can't get this on the Xbox Series S. Like, people would have just been like, "What? How could you done that?" No, but I'm a little bit torn now, because I know I said before, like, that they I think is out of order. It's not going to be on PlayStation 4, but as it's paid for now, it kind of changes the game a little bit because it's not free, so you would have to buy it anyway. So I suppose is what it is.
Well, although it'd be interesting to see how the patch works. Like if patch 1.7 just doesn't get pushed on PS4s, and so like it's this weird thing of like the same disc does two different things in two different consoles, and one gets an update and the other one doesn't. And
well, they've said that they're going to still technically support the versions on the previous consoles. So, which is I suppose, which is good at least that they've said that. At least they haven't said we're just cutting all of our support completely for previous gen. But I mean, to be fair, what does that even mean? Like, if it breaks, we'll fix it. That's probably about it.
I don't even think it goes that far. I think if it breaks, they'll be like, yeah, it's broken.
it's still broken.
Yeah, it's almost like their coverage and their support that they're pledging is to just acknowledge the fuck ups, but that's about as far as they'll go.
It would become the summer interns thing. It's like if you do an internship at CD Projekt Red, you become the Cyberpunk dev team for the summer.
It'd be interesting to see what the future think of Cyberpunk. Like, in 10, 20 years' time, it'd be interesting to know how that game is viewed.
Well, they'd only know about it from the discourse and the reviews, unless they fire it up on GOG.
No, come on. Like, people these days don't care about what people thought when a game came out. They just completely rewrite history half the time with what they think of games.
I have a theory about games that are broadly reappraised after launch following successful patches and updates, which is that people are more willing to accept a game has been made better over the passage of time without having played it themselves than they are willing to accept a game that has just released is like good without playing it themselves. And that like there are far more people out there that will spread the good word of No Man's Sky having never touched No Man's Sky, because it's almost like you want to buy into that like success story, and it's also just easier. Yeah. Like you believe when you hear enough things in enough places, then. And so I think that will happen to Cyberpunk. There'll be, I reckon, this expansion will come out. This expansion will review like pretty damn well, because it's what CD Projekt Red do best, right? They've got the technical element as good as it needs to be to have a playable game, and they're going to write some fucking gnarly story that's going to be really good because they're very technically sound and savvy and talented writers. So this expansion will come out and get 9s out of 10s. The people who keep playing Cyberpunk patch after patch will keep talking for ages and ages about how good it is. The people who don't play Cyberpunk will believe them, and in 10 years' time will be like, man, you know what, Cyberpunk? That game did some really cool shit, which it did. So
yeah, maybe.
I think it'd be funny in the future because people will sort of talk about Cyberpunk and how bad it was, and they'll also talk about how glitchy it was, and that it didn't work very well, and then they'll look at other like Bethesda games that came out not too long ago and like, hold on, this was good and that was shit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but hold on, because you see the thing again is that just that stigma hanging over Cyberpunk like a fucking Grim Reaper, where it's like to pull the Cyberpunk is like the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
To release a game before you should have.
And in that bad state. Yeah, that's true. That's very
true. Like that's an industry defining term right there. Anyway.
Can you ever recover from that? Do you think they'll recover?
Yes. So CD Projekt Red.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever like get back to the pre Cyberpunk?
Let me rephrase that question for you. Let me ask you a question with another question. If the next Witcher is good, will people buy it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But then, do people remember how buggy
I think that's
the Witcher
the challenge
3
they
was?
face.
Like we talked about this at the time.
But Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk were chalk and cheese.
They were, but Witcher 3 had a lot of game-breaking bugs in it when it was released. And one of the things we talked about at the time, I think going back, and I referenced this when we talked about Cyberpunk when it was released, was a lot of the stuff they were going to do to fix it, because I'd said a lot of the game-breaking bugs I'd had with Witcher 3, I think I had 3 or 4, like literally game-breaking bugs. The only thing I possibly could have done is to restart the game again. They brute forced the bugs in order to get through them. Like they didn't actually fix them. They just did like a really like smash and grab workaround, and that's what they did with Cyberpunk for a while. So I wasn't actually that surprised.
I don't want to start an argument, but I feel like you're the only person who has that account of The Witcher 3 having like 3 to 4 game-breaking bugs per individual that were ultimately brute forced and not fixed. I don't hear that account anywhere else online.
But they went back and fixed them.
I didn't have a game-breaking. I know it's like a he said, she said. I didn't have any game breaking. The other thing I'll say about Witcher, you want to talk about timelines and how like better.
They did a lot to Witcher 3. They did shitloads to that game to fix it.
Yeah, but can I say something? Can I say something that might make you raise an eyebrow in terms of timelines, in terms of how little The Witcher 3 actually had to fix and how quickly they did it? So we're two years, almost 2 years from the release of Cyberpunk, and we've just been teased about the expansion for the first time. Witcher 3's first expansion came out like 6 months after the game.
I was going to say, I think it was 6 months before they'd fixed the bugs in Witcher 3. So you're absolutely right. The time frame was completely different. Like they'd fixed it, changed the UI, like they'd sorted out a load of the stuff that people didn't like about that. They'd fixed the game breaking bugs and they'd done all of it in 6 months. Like because I couldn't play it.
It was night and day.
It was
the amount of bugs we're talking.
It was night and day, and you didn't have the bugs in the way that the Cyberpunk had, like constant, like tiny bugs throughout the entire experience. Witcher 3, like you had to play shitloads of the game to get to a point. Like personally, like you said, you didn't have it. Where I had a bug, and then I think I've said before in the pod, like I went away and I came back in a month and it was fixed. And then I went away and I had another one, and then I went away for a month and then it was fixed. Whereas Cyberpunk seemed to just obviously it's taken a hell of a lot.
Yeah, but there's another point to this, right? As the company that pulled a Cyberpunk, they're not going to pull a Witcher 4. You know what I mean? Like
I think I agree.
Anyone left in that company, even if it's just one, like the fucking janitor, if there's only the janitor left that was there from the Cyberpunk era when they release Witcher 4, they are never going to repeat that mistake.
I think I agree. Which doesn't mean I think they're going to release a flawless game, but I don't think they're going to open themselves up for as much of a mess as they did ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I guess I agree. Okay. The only reason I say that is because they had issues with, and to be fair, the issues with Witcher 3 were pretty standard, like we're saying. They were nowhere near as bad as Cyberpunk. But the scalability, or the scale from Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk was obviously they went much bigger and they tried to do much more. And that, I guess, is where they had the problems. So I suppose, to my mind, the only question would be, it depends if they try and do loads more with Witcher 4, or whether they sort of rein it back into no, it's just a scaled up Witcher 3. But I don't know what a massively expanded Witcher 4 would look like.
Well, I mean, they're making it on Unreal for the first time, right? Which is like, so there's an engine change, I guess, which I think sounds like a helpful starting point.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's going to be interesting. CD Projekt Red have, hopefully many years ahead of them and many games ahead of them to support both of these franchises and anything new they have on the horizon. But it's going to be very interesting to see how they tiptoe around not just the future of Cyberpunk in terms of 2077 and the franchise, but also the next Witcher game. And whether, gamers are dumb enough and have enough short-term memory issues that it's just one and done. The Witcher 4's good and we're back on board, baby.
I mean, that's exactly what it'll be.
That's what it'll be for me.
I did just because I know I asked the question, but I would even say that if they dropped Cyberpunk 2078, that people would be back on board immediately as well.
Yeah, if they started teasing Cyberpunk 2078, like let's say next summer, we'd all have to be very cautious and treat trailers with a healthy amount of skepticism.
Boys, but if you don't even have to go that far. No, you don't even have to go that far. If they just say, yeah, fucking Phantom Liberty is balls amazing, that's what it's going to take. But everyone's got a fucking copy of this game.
Oh no, but I mean, as in, if they just said, "Hey, we're releasing Cyberpunk 2078," I reckon the hype train would be back on the tracks, even if they did nothing between now and then. I think people would.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be.
Fair enough.
I think if there any continuation of the Cyberpunk franchise, coming from CD Projekt Red, they have to fucking work for it. They have to prove it, and the reviews need to, like, as a consumer, you'd be like, all right, I'm just fucking
we'd all wait. Nobody would pre-order that game.
And if the reviews are quality, people will go back for sure. I'm positive of that. But
yeah, that's definitely.
You telling me, they're going to drop a trailer for 2078 and people are going to lose them? No one is going to do that.
I'm going to split the difference between the two of you, but I will say I don't think Jonesy's entirely wrong in that I think there are consumers out there with a healthy enough optimism and an unhealthy enough skepticism that when they hear that, they're like, this is going to be great. They're going to think, they can't fuck up again. They know what they did wrong last time. They're going to get it right this time. This is going to be great, kind of thing.
But you both just said that with Witcher 4.
Yeah, which is why I'm agreeing with
I know. So I was like, Chris is saying Chris doesn't agree.
I think that's different because Witcher is not a tainted fucking property at this stage. It's not. It's a property fucking soaring on the wings of eagles. That shit's been fucking, compared to what Cyberpunk has turned out to. If you go and ask anyone there right now, go outside on the street, find someone in your fucking village and say, give me your opinion on Witcher, they'll tell you one thing. And they say, give me your opinion on Cyberpunk, they'll tell you complete opposite tale. And that is why I have that opinion.
Because it's funny I find it interesting how you delineate between the two just because they're a different franchise. Like they're the same company.
But it's not the franchise, it's the critical reception.
Oh no, I mean it's the quality,
and it's the stigma around it.
I mean, as to the quality of the next one. Like you're saying, Witcher 4 would be fine. They're not going to have any problems with Witcher 4. It'll come out and be great like Witcher 3 was.
No. So you're misunderstanding here. I think that there's not going to have as many problems with Witcher 4 than they did with Cyberpunk because they're learning from Cyberpunk. But as a separate thing, saying if they release any kind of Witcher 4 thing, going off of the back of what the critical reception of Witcher 3 was, it's absolutely fine. But if they had to release something on Cyberpunk 2078, as an example, whatever it might be, judging from the critical reception of Cyberpunk, those are two separate issues entirely.
Oh yeah, no, agreed. The reception and the perception is very different to like the reality of the But I don't know. Yeah. I still think I don't know. I'd still be hesitant with Witcher 4 as well. I'd be like, okay, let's see what's gone on with.
I mean, mate, from the developers that bought you Cyberpunk 2077, you should be fucking cautious.
From the developers that fixed Cyberpunk 2077,
just all we're saying is give it a year. Wait, Witcher 4 comes out, give it a year, and then hop in. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I wonder if CD Projekt Red, they're probably. It would be curious to see how hard they go with the marketing on it because we know that with Cyberpunk they went fucking hard.
So hard. Mate, they're going hard again with the Night City Wires for a bloody expansion that's coming out in like we don't even know when, sometime next year.
Yeah, but we didn't know. Like Jamie was the only one that knew that this fucking Night City Wire came out, and this is coming from a person. You've said it from as a person owning a Cyberpunk chair.
Oh yeah.
Only to be fair, I only found out because it's like the next 2 weeks are. Well, things might actually change because, some news broke this afternoon in the UK that will undoubtedly change whether or not some events take place and so on and so forth.
Apparently it's already postponed Nintendo Direct, a potential Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, supposedly so. So it's not going to be quite as hectic as we thought it was going to be, but the reason I knew about the CD Projekt Red live stream was because this was going to be an almost apocalyptically big 2-week stint of showcases and live streams and so on and so forth. And I was looking at like a list of them all. It's like, oh, there's a Night City Wire tonight. Who'd have thunk?
This is I was going to say something a bit cheeky, but I'm not going to.
Go on, why not?
I was going to say this is going to be the excuse that they're going to use to delay Ragnarok without getting any. Without getting any egg on their face. Sorry, guys, we've had to delay it to 2023 because of what the events.
I mean, you know what? Sony have delayed their state of plays for various world-affecting kind of things, and I wouldn't put it past them.
No, yeah. I'm only messing around. I'm just messing around.
You know what's not getting delayed or cancelled or postponed or anything as a result of the news we received this afternoon?
Us,
the SuperShow podcast that you're listening to right now, that is being recorded just hours after the death of Her Majesty the Queen, is going to be put out live on the internet the day after the death of Her Majesty the Queen, R.I.P. Wow. And the reason we're allowed to and able to do something like that is because, largely speaking, we don't really care about any platforms and what they do to us and what we do to them, and that's because we are supported by you, the listeners, and more specifically...
Hold on, sorry, Jim. I have to interrupt you there. Because the only platform we do care about is Google Stadia. Continue.
Sorry, yes, of course. The Super Show podcast coming soon to Google Stadia. Yes, we are proud to announce we are #one of the 100. The other platform we care about, though, is, of course, Patreon. Patreon.com/SuperShow. And the reason we care about it is because it gives you, the listeners, the viewers, and the enjoyers of this podcast, well, hopefully, maybe hate viewers. That'd be fun. Reach out if you're one of the people that supports the Patreon because you hate us and you hate listening to us and you hate that you can't stop listening to us, so you have to keep supporting us. Anyway, that was a tangent. I apologize. The reason I love the Patreon is because it gives us a means and a platform to connect to you as you connect with us. If you head over to that link, patreon.com/supershow, what you'll find is a number of different tiers that you can pledge to. For example, there's a $2 tier that gets you access to our Discord server. There's a $5 tier that starts to get you access to Patreon exclusive content. We've got Patreon exclusive podcasts. We've got behind the scenes videos. We've got Let's Plays. We've got all kinds of shit on there. A whole archive, if you will, of Super Show content that we shot over the years, and it's all available to you. For example, if you went to patreon.com/Super Show and pledged $5 a month. There are other tiers there. They come with other bonuses. One of the bonuses, for example, is to be able to get your name or screen name or whatever you want it to be on screen. Some of those names are on screen right now. We often just copy and paste or write them out verbatim exactly as they are. So if you wanted to make a joke or a prank on us or say something funny or give a shout out to your friends, you could do that via Patreon. There are also, to cause further embarrassment, additional names which we actually read out loud. Yes, really. And people have turned me their jokes before. And I'm going to do that right now, starting with Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Bill Caesar, Brimstone, Cole K, Crow's Perch, Ice Snort Rock Salt, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Leo Merger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Nathan Pears, Pastors Guild, and the big dogs, the head honchos, Brett Z, aka Shell Shock, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Guerrero, and Peaswat. Thank you all ever so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And
Big up.
I will say again, like obviously we do read out the names and put the display names on screen depending on which tier of the Patreon you pledge to. There is a limit. And we have had names and people who have attempted to make jokes before that we have looked at and said, we cannot publicly broadcast or display that information or that wording on the internet, and thus we will have to resort to using just their real name. So that wasn't a hall pass to say some atrocious shit. Although if you do have any Queen Elizabeth jokes, again, this is probably a good week for them. Anyway, lads, should we chat a little bit about what we've been playing in the past week?
Ooh.
Sure.
Spicy. Yeah.
Jonesy, I feel like you might have got a little something that you wish to bring to the party.
I'll keep it very brief. Just say that I've played a bit more of Cult of the Lamb. Still plugging my way through that. Still a very enjoyable Switch game. Easily my favourite version of that style of game that I've played. I think probably ever. Am I going to say ever?
Interesting.
I think I'll say ever.
But hang on, which style? Because Cult of the Lamb is infamously two styles that are often separate but mashed together.
I don't even. I hate the what's the when you how do you say it, like conglomeration or whatever they say when you put multiple things together. I don't even know how you'd say it. Like, is it a dungeon crawler? Is it a farming game? Is it a like base build? I don't even know what it is. But all I know is it's fun, and I've been enjoying it. And the way that it sort of effortlessly weaves a narrative between multiple styles of gameplay is very enjoyable. The combat is simple enough that even I can be good at it and not worry about beating bosses and stuff. But also challenging enough that you're not going to survive every interaction with enemies. The way that the game scales is still keeping me engaged and entertained. Often, games can get a bit stale in the way that, you beat a boss and then you want to go back to the same area and it gets boring. But no, they keep it fresh. They add some new stuff in. They've got a few different hooks to keep you farming. One of I didn't expect it to kind of tax me as much as it is when you're trying to keep your cult alive. I thought that aspect of it was going to almost be something that you just forget about and you don't really worry about. But you do actually have to think about like supporting your little animals and keeping them. You've got to keep them as part of your cult. You've got to do things to make them want to stay, because otherwise they'll turn on you and they'll start spreading lies about you. But then you can do fun things like throw a little animal in jail, or you can try and retrain them so that they, you can use a bit of, what do they call that? Can't remember, like mind
conversion.
Yeah, conversion therapy maybe, or what do they call it when the CIA do it to you and they're like melt your brain?
Oh, like MK Ultra, like Call of Duty
Like
Black.
brainwashing. Yeah, brainwashing. Yes. So you can brainwash them to like be part of your cult again. Or my favorite thing, you just sacrifice them in a ritual, which is the thing I like to do the most.
Is there a way to brainwash them to get them to go and get you some orange sherbet?
You can't get them to go orange sherbet. You can send them out to get resources. I don't think orange sherbet is.
It's close enough,
but it's close. It's close. So yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
Enough.
It's a good time.
Nice. It's a game that I still mean to play, and hopefully I will before the end of the year. Although you never know, because it always feels like we're on the verge of things really spicing up when it comes to hot new releases that take our breath away. Speaking of hot new releases that take our breath away, Chris, have you played anything new this past week?
Yeah, thanks for this out. No. I've played nothing, fellas. I don't know where the time has gone. Like, honestly, it feels like yesterday was Sunday. Like, it's mad. I don't know where the time's gone. But God, I haven't played any games, which has been kind of abysmal. But I have been watching some stuff. I watched the first 2 episodes of Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, The Rings of Power. I thoroughly enjoy it. I really do.
It's good to hear.
I am a Lord of the Rings fan by way of the films. Didn't care for The Hobbit and the Hobbit films that much. Not a fan of the books. Tried reading them, got really bored after about a handful of chapters and like, not for me. And I think that's why I'm okay with the show. I know it's a little bit contentious at the moment. Like a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's too woke. Oh, Tolkien's kind of turning in his grave with what they've done."
Is it gone all woke?
No,
I mean,
has it? How would it even? How would it? It's in Middle Earth.
That thing that Chris just said about Tolkien turning in his grave is what Elon Musk tweeted, for example.
Yeah, literally. I honestly, I think it's like I hear stuff like this and I'm like, just fucking get over yourself. Like, Jesus Christ.
I'm not a fan. I don't know that world apart from the games, the video games. So I'm
apparently some black. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. There's like some black people in it, and it's like, oh, how can you have black people in Middle Earth? How dare you?
They're being racially abused now.
Did they not have them already?
They had them already? This is the thing. This is the thing I don't fucking understand. Okay, they're like, oh, how can you have they don't have hobbits in this. They've got like proto hobbits, okay, right, called halfwits, okay, and Lenny Henry is one of them. He's been getting like abused.
Nice.
Like
what a ledge!
Oh.
I
was saying nice to Lenny Henry, not the abuse. I timed that really close.
Timing. And all these halfwits have Irish accents, and I fellas, obviously I watched this and then I wanted to read some reviews, and then I've been getting sent reviews, and now I'm in the fucking Google algorithm, and I'm privy to whatever it kind of fucking sends me, and I can't tell you the amount of articles that I've been pushed towards me from Google saying, like, dissecting how bad it is that these halfwits have Irish accents. And I'm just like, excuse me, it's fucking Middle Earth. It's not real, you dinguses.
Oh, do they? But hold on, but do they mean that in the way that, like, George Lucas, they say that he racially sort of categorized people in the Star Wars universe? Are they saying that they're saying halfwits equals Irish accent because that he?
No, but they're not halfwits. They're halfwits.
What are you saying?
HARFOOT.
Halfwit. I thought you were calling them halfwits. I thought you were saying they were called halfwits.
See, that's your racial bias coming.
They would that's your accent if they were half-wits.
Halfwits.
No, but like, it's just like, oh, how can they have Irish accents and this, that? It's just like, get over yourself. How can they be black? Oh, get over yourself. Oh, why are there so many women in it? Get over yourself. Like,
they want one show just full of white men. They just want like gay porn. That's what they really want.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah,
just an idea.
Okay. Sure.
For any racists out there.
But I just like,
I don't know. Like, I don't know any of the source material, so I don't really know. But look, it does seem kind of dumb, right?
Here's the thing: I'm reading some of the discourse around it, and I get frustrated by it. But then again, I think back to my own kind of comments on X Defiant, saying like, "Oh, Tom Clancy will be rolling in his grave."
Yeah,
and it kind of makes me feel a bit bad. It's not on the same level by any means, because I'm not calling X Defiant racist. I'm just calling it dumb. Okay, and that's a little bit different. But it was never going to be an easy thing to follow up the Lord of the Rings films. Okay, so potentially one of the greatest trilogies ever committed to celluloid. Right? It was always going to have a tough time appeasing Tolkien fans, like especially the hardcore ones. And so what they did is they didn't retread some of the other books. They just took like snippets of the appendices of the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy and the expanded stories and etc. And then they set it as a prequel, and they kind of rolling with it in their own way and their own kind of take on it. And it's just kind of like, just enjoy it for what it is, like as a like super high polished, enjoyable thing. Like, look, some of the criticisms that has been laid on it are like, oh, it's a bit boring. I can get that. I can understand that. But then again, like, have you tried to read The Lord of the Rings? Have either of you tried to read Lord of the Rings?
No.
Serious question. I tried to read The Hobbit, but not any of the Lord of the Rings.
Okay. I tried to read Lord of the Rings when the films came out because previously I had read like maybe half of The Hobbit and got like fucking bored out of my skull. Also because school made me read it, and anytime school makes you do something, you're just like, I'm not doing it. But yeah, I was like, no, you know what? I'm old enough, I'm mature enough. I should read The Lord of the Rings because that's like, a seminal piece of work. And fucking hell, fellas, after the 4th chapter about describing the grass and the color of the grass in fucking Hobbiton, I was like, this is probably not for me. It's not going anywhere.
Had the same reaction to War and Peace.
Yeah, okay, fine, fair enough.
Couldn't get through the first chapter. It's so boring. But
it's also like it's a show that they're hoping to go on for multiple seasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, they might. I personally, I didn't find it boring. I found it fascinating because I like getting immersed in those high fantasy kind of worlds, and I'm willing, maybe more so than others, to give it the benefit of the doubt and see where they're kind of developing it. Especially we're going in a prequel where it's like thousands of years before what people have come to know and expect. Like, maybe go with it for a little bit instead of just the 2 episodes that have been fucking released and losing your shit over it, and
I kind of get it,
threatening to burn your baby alive.
I kind of get it when it's one character. Like, so I used to always, when I was a kid, like I would read books a lot more so than I do now, and I would have like in my head I'd have a vision of who the character is based on the book or the novel, and when I would then see the film version of it. So when people have like that wasn't the person I imagined, I'm okay, that's fair enough, because I had that loads of times as a kid where I'm like, oh, that's not how I imagined them. I wasn't like annoyed, but it just made me feel like,
oh yeah, but Jonesy, like there's a difference of that, and there's another difference of saying like, oh, I'm going to send death threats to this actor because he's the wrong skin color to what I thought.
There's also a difference when it's a character,
but that didn't exist in the fucking thing, but was created out of a fucking appendix.
That's what I was going to say.
Appendices, and it's just mental to me. Look, one of the other things that people are like complaining about is the characterization of Galadriel. She is the kind of like main driving force in this prequel. Obviously, in the original trilogy, she was played by Cate Blanchett. Right. She was like the elf lady in the woods. I forgot what the
she was like 4,000 years old or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, that's elves, right? That's just fucking what they do.
Yeah.
But in this, she's like a commander and she's a warrior and she's like hunting down like evil and stuff. And I'm like, I can dig it. I don't have a problem with it. But I can see where people might have a problem with it.
The recharacterization of the character is like that to this sort of thing.
Yeah, but again, I don't know from the appendices if that was a thing that was laid out or if this is completely done for the show. But okay, like maybe just go with it. I don't know. Like,
what was your before you move on from Galadriel? Because the only thing I saw of it really was there was a scene where I think it's Galadriel takes on like this big Yeti monster thing, and loads of people were ridiculing the editing, saying like it was the way it's cut was really annoying. Did you find that at all? Or were you pretty happy with the show? That sort of thing?
So in that aspect, I think like there was a interesting build up to kind of the danger of it, and then as soon as it kind of attacks, then Galadriel just kind of like kills it. And it was a little bit of like a nice kind of anticipation and build up, but not much of a payoff because it's like it's a massive fucking ice troll,
right?
And then Galadriel just kind of like kills it with minimal effort. So I can see stuff like that kind of annoying people. Yeah, okay, whatever. Like you could say that could have been better for sure. You don't need to send death threats or review bomb or anything like that.
I don't know where people get to the point of going, I'm really annoyed with this, I'm going to send them a death threat. Like, yeah, come on, man. Is it worth you getting a call from your local government enforcement agency for this?
But the thing I will say, fellas, is the money involved in the show drips off the fucking screen, and it looks incredible. Honestly, it looks amazing. But hey, that's my 2 cents on it.
I think I may well give it a go. I might wait till the whole season's out
And that's fair. Yeah,
take a recap then. But I'm definitely interested because I like the Lord of the Rings movies. I haven't watched them in a very long time, but I was really into them growing up. I saw each of them in the cinema. I was like one of those. I was the kid who had to get dragged to these 3-hour-long films that my parents couldn't stand. But I was like, no, we're going.
Oh, mate. Yeah, I was there in the cinema. I watched all of the extended editions and DVD when it came out. Like, when it came to the films, I was there for it. I think I must have seen like the Two Towers maybe like, I don't know, 20 times easy.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
I've not watched.
Oh man, that Battle for Helm's Deep is amazing.
I've not watched them.
What was your Lord of the Rings then, Jonesy, if you had one?
Like a franchise or a series, or like
like a big epic franchise that
maybe just like the more traditional ones, like Gladiator. I like Troy, even though some of that was shit. I liked
more historically accurate stuff.
Even like Willow back in the day. Like I love Willow.
Willow is quality.
I used Krull, like a lot of those sort of 80s fantasy ones, like when I was a kid. Even like Dungeons and Dragons, the movie. Dragon Slayer. Like Dragon Slayer was lit when I was a kid, but they were all crap. Like if you watch them now, you'd be like, "Oh, these are terrible." But when I was sort of like 9, 10, like I absolutely loved them. I think Lord of the Rings. I'd never read the books, and then by the time they came out, I tried to watch the first one a few times and the second one a few times, but I just always kept falling asleep, and they were so long. I'm sure they're good. Like I just could never get down with it.
They're legitimately, like, it's easy to forget, for example, that Return of the King won the Oscar for Best Picture. Like, they're not just good fantasy films; they're like legitimately.
Oh, I've got a great little anecdote about the tech that they created for it, because obviously like Weta Digital, etc. So for the Battle of Helm's Deep, they had all the kind of orcs attacking the stronghold where all the lines of the humans and the elves were kind of like holed up against, right? The way that they programmed the AI for the computer-generated hordes of the orcs, they kind of said, they programmed it to say, win at any costs, right? Like that's how they kind of like did it. And then they ran the simulation, and all the orcs just put down all of their weapons and just ran away.
Right.
So, like, because the only way they could win was by fleeing.
not to engage, basically.
Isn't that losing?
Yeah, and then they had to go back to the like programming of the AI and be like, no, actually, like you need to fight.
That's kind of mad.
Yeah, special editions, baby. That's the thing I miss about like special edition DVDs and stuff and extended editions. All that extra shit, which we still get, but like it's not that occasion of putting the disc in, going through the special features and being like, oh, I want to watch this fucking featurette or whatever,
Can I admit something that's going to make me sound really dumb?
Mm.
I literally found out right now that when they make that sort of scene in a film, they don't individually like just move every character to do what they want, that they use,
or like they didn't hand animate and keyframe like over 1,000 orcs with the weapons.
I'd never thought about it until you just said they're like, the AI like in a computer game where they fight each other. I'm like, I've never thought about that before. I just assumed they animated it. And
fair enough, yeah.
I think it's also still quite rare that you get quite as many people fighting on screen as you did get in some of those Lord of the Rings scenes.
Right.
Like the sheer size of those armies and some of those fights and how long some of those fights went on for was pretty remarkable, considering the standard they had to hit as well, which, was higher than, say, a video game cutscene could have been, around 2003, 2000, whatever, interesting stuff. I'm happy to cap off the catch-up section because I've only got one quick thing to give a shout-out to, and that's Immortality, which...
Oh, right.
Yeah, I forget if it was out last week. It's one of those ones where it kind of released and it took me a little while to actually get up to speed on exactly what it was and why I was interested in it. It's the new game from Sam Barlow, who I keep having to resist the temptation to call Ken Barlow, who is a very different individual. Sam Barlow, who made Her Story, kind of, I don't remember when that was, probably close to a decade ago now, and Telling Lies as well, which I never played Telling Lies, to be fair, but I played Her Story. And for anyone that hasn't played any of those, Immortality is of the same ilk in that it is kind of a FMV-based mystery game where you have to scour through FMV sequences to unravel a mystery. And in this case, it's the mystery of an actress that has gone missing, and you have got access to 3 feature films that she recorded in 3 different eras, I think like late 60s, then one of the 70s, and one of the 90s, that never got released for various reasons. And so you have to kind of crawl through these unreleased feature films and try and find clues as to what could have happened to this actress and unravel the mystery. There are other bits as well, like interviews she might have done or behind the scenes things where the camera might have kept rolling before or after a take and stuff like that. That all kind of like add more texture and context to what's going on. And it's also got this system where like, so her story was kind of, but this is the one from about a decade ago, had like an OS system where you would type in certain keywords and it would return all the videos, that the short clips that were relevant to the words you chose. This one, because obviously there's a lot of FMV and a lot to get through, it's got a system where you can interact with faces or objects within the scene. So you can pause and say like, click on a face, and it will take you to other things that face appears in. So you can start kind of connecting, almost like Pepe Sylvia style, connecting the dots between, hang on a second, like that person, I recognize that person who's an extra in this film. What were they doing in this film? Or like, that's the same piece of jewelry that was over here. And like, you kind of start connecting the dots. And while I haven't got to the central mystery yet, apparently it's pretty fucking good. So
I don't think I've played an FMV game since like Star Trek Academy, where like the cutscenes were like FMV. But that sounds
maybe my last one was like, I don't know, fucking Gabriel Knight 2.
Yeah, I think the thing that helps this is that one, all of the FMV is set in eras that are most definitely not now, and 2, they're all kind of like candid, and so like they're set up to be something else. So it's like, because it might be like a film being shot in the 70s on 16mm stock or whatever, and like the cameras kept rolling after a take, and you're watching actors interact, like just casually. You're watching people act as though they're not acting, so it takes away some of that. When someone's overdoing it in FMV, a lot of that layer gets scrubbed away. Or like there's clips from like a late night talk show that like intentionally staged and like very late night talk showy. And I will also say, I might interest us actually from a sort of an editor's perspective. They do a really good job of emulating the look and the feel and the way that some of the like 60s movies, 70s movies, 90s movies, and also television, like the way those things were staged and the way they were shot, and kind of like types of grain or noise that like would appear. Like I know it's very easy to kind of like slap on a Red Giant effect and say like, make this look like an old timey movie, but they've done more than just like slap on some film grain or like a CRT filter here and there. Like they've done some interesting things to kind of replicate bits of media that might have actually been from those eras. And it's on Game Pass, which is always the final sentence of all of this. So Immortality. Should we do a little comment of the week, gang?
Hold on. Before you do that, none of you bought and played Last of Us Part 1.
We've been good boys.
Yeah, I think we did say that we neither of us had any intention to do it. Yeah.
You see, you say that, but I sometimes I look at Jamie's like grinning face, and I'm like, that guy's gonna go and fucking.
I'll make an honest confession, Chris, because you brought up the point. I'm considering doing it this weekend.
Okay.
But the reason I'm considering doing it is because, one, it's still early enough in the month that I can make a stupid mistake, financially speaking. And 2, I'm getting towards the tail end of a tricky project at work, and like it feels like a nice way of rewarding myself and just indulging. Cleanser. Yeah, even if that palate cleanser is incredibly depressing and dark and violent and has a questionably happy or unhappy ending, it's still kind of like a nice trip down memory lane. So I might indulge.
It's I mean, like a game you've played before and you love, that turns into comfort food, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And then after that, Elden Ring, right?
Never say never. Never say never. I do want to play it before the year's out, running out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how about that comment of the week?
Please.
Let's do it. This one comes in from Sean Cass, who commented on last week's upload over on YouTube. And they said, if a fourth big player was to enter the video game space, who do you think it would be and what would be their appeal? For example, Xbox is all about the ecosystem and having as many options on where to play as possible, along with a very enticing value proposition. Then we have PlayStation with their genre-defining AAA big hitters, and Nintendo offers nostalgia and top-quality games that are never seen on other platforms. Interesting breakdown there on kind of how all three of the current big players have kind of like found their own niche for themselves, while still fundamentally competing with one another. But a fourth big player, based on who's out there at the moment, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
I had an idea about this already.
Okay, sounds like you've both got a hunch.
Go on,
Josie.
Okay, so I think if it was going to be a fourth big player, it would be Apple, right? And they would effectively bring out something like the Apple TV, like it would just be a little box that plugged into your TV by one HDMI cable.
With the subscription, and you get mobile games,
and you get like this halfway house. You're not wrong. A halfway house between like you'd get Apple games or Apple Arcade, but it would be like a leveled up version where it would be kind of a cross between PC meets Nintendo kind of feel. So they wouldn't be mobile games. They wouldn't be full fledged AAA video games. There'd be this kind of in the middle ground. When the adverts would be people sitting down with the little Apple controller, like looking at their family who are sitting on the sofa with them, and they'd push a little button and it would go bling, and then you'd like access it, and it would be this halfway between Xbox and Nintendo, this like cutesy gaming family thing.
I mean, you just laid out the marketing for Nintendo Wii.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be that dissimilar, right? It wouldn't be that dissimilar.
You guys are missing the obvious fucking thing. The elephant in the fucking room.
All right.
Go on.
Fourth one it already exists. It's PC.
No,
that doesn't count. Like you can't.
Of course it counts.
What does PC stand for?
Personal computer.
So who is the fourth big player, Chris?
Well, you could say it. Okay, as an entity, as an individual, sure, fine. You got me on that one. But as a platform, it's PC, and the distinction that it brings is modularity and modification over any of the other consoles. Like it exists. You can't say it doesn't exist.
No, the thing is, you're totally right. I just don't think it's necessarily in the spirit of what Sean was asking about.
I agree.
So, I think
you're obviously right in like the sense of that's the other strand. But
so taking that further, there is an obvious player here, but they are their own worst. Oh, there's two obvious players here. No, not Sega. There's two obvious players here. Okay,
I think I know where you're going with this.
Both companies, in different ways, are doing everything they can to make themselves not be successful.
Ooh.
Can I guess?
Yes, please do.
Google and
number
Amazon.
One. Google and Amazon. No and no.
Oh wow. Okay, then I went in the complete wrong direction.
In what I'm thinking, Steam and Facebook.
Yep. Do you know what? Interesting. Valve especially is people who obviously Valve flirted with Steam machines and now have successfully released a handheld.
Yes, it is successful. But what I mean by a company being their own worst enemy, okay? Let's take Facebook because that's an easy one, okay?
Sure.
Oculus and their push into VR could be something, okay? But all the reports of, you need a Facebook account and they're focusing on the metaverse rather than like an actual gaming ecosystem, that's hampering them. Putting up the price of the Quest 2, that's hampering them. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg just being involved in the same sentences, hampering them. Okay, that's on the Facebook side. That's like completely understandable. But people might be scratching their heads when they hear me say Valve as a company are kind of putting the spokes of their own bicycle and then blaming other people. You know, that little kind of meme. It's because, yes, they've got this Steam Deck that they've released, which is a really good piece of kit, okay? And it's really successful. It's like sold out, etc. Demand is far outstripping supply. But I feel as long as Steam is where they're making their money, they're never full hog into any of these projects, whether it's Steam machines, Steam controller, Steam OS, etc. Even though
Index.
everything they're doing, the index, everything they're doing is kind of moving them along towards that thing. But like, how many times are we gonna have fucking Gabe Newell come out saying, Valve are making games again, guys, and hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, yes, they are moving forward, but at the same time, they are also their own worst enemy, because if they properly gave it a concerted effort, within 2 years, they could have like a proper market share, not just a demand outstripping supply kind of thing. Which is weird to say, but I hope you get my sentiment.
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jonesy, you're thinking.
No, I think Chris is right. Like, I suppose with this question, Sean is kind of saying these companies are bringing together hardware and software, and that doesn't have to be like in Sony's case, for example, it doesn't have to be first party like in-house software. It's first party stuff that they, other companies that they own, whatever. So Steam, they don't necessarily have to make the games themselves, but they've got the hardware now in the Steam Deck, and if they brought some, more companies in-house to make content for them specifically, then I guess they would almost be there, or they'd almost be the fourth player. And if they just went whole hog, did it more, did it better, then I guess they could be the fourth player.
Yeah. And I mean, the Steam as a platform is kind of like where their base would be. And, if you talk about like what their USP would be, Valve's USP would be that modularity of PC gaming and being able to mod anything and do X, Y, Z. I mean, that's why we're seeing all these like videos of Spider-Man, but it's not Spider-Man anymore. It's fucking Woody from Toy Story or fucking Garfield or some shit. Like, it's quality stuff. That would be their aspect. And I think if we had to look at a USP of what Facebook could potentially bring to it, it would be either their focus on VR, although Steam also has the focus on VR, but they could have that kind of like social platform towards it. But I don't think that they would ever crack it, because Facebook being Facebook. But the good thing that both of these companies have is bucket tons of money in order to do this if they really did want to. And you know what, surprisingly, I think probably the next player is going to be that will have any relevance, maybe, I'm hoping, is actually Logitech. Did you see that leak that they had where it's like, hey, we've got this handheld device that will latch onto all the cloud services?
Yeah, because they did a deal with, was it 2K? Or I can't remember. Logitech did a deal with someone, didn't they? Or they were bringing the handheld out with someone else. It wasn't like just them doing it. I can't remember who the hell it was. There was something to do with like a collaboration.
I think you're right. I think there was like a collab there. But yeah, like that I think is super smart. It's kind of creating a platform, but piggybacking off of other people's platforms. And I think that's like super smart.
That's what I think it kind of backfired in the end, right? But I think that's what Nvidia flirted with at the early stages of GeForce Now. It's just like, we're going to take every game you own anywhere and let you stream it to your device. And obviously there were permissions issues there, but damn, was that a good idea.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that Logitech have going for them and Valve have going for them too, that they are
10-cent games. That's what it was. Apologies. Correct.
Oh yeah, 10-cent.
I mean, that you're just describing the whole games industry.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 10-cent money? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Hey, do you like games? Then
exactly.
Welcome to 10-cent or NetEase.
Thanks, China. Is what they are doing is, and I don't know why I still associate this with kind of like leading first party companies or leading sort of console manufacturing companies, is they're putting devices in people's hands that cost hundreds of dollars, and then they're not being afraid to kind of paywall their services and their software behind hardware that takes hundreds of dollars of upfront investment from consumers. And what's weird is that bigger companies are targeting more people by bypassing that step but having less success. And ironically, the two I mentioned there in passing before, Amazon and Google, have both been at the open market for years now. And you think about Google, like, they went whole hog. Google started making and acquiring studios. They started making exclusive games. They had the Amazon and Google have their own controllers. There are Amazon and Google gamepads that you can hold right now, which is a bizarre thought, but it exists. And they were targeting, in theory, everyone, because it was all cloud-based and, and it didn't really work. And like, there are other weird things, like as an extension of what Jonesy talked about, what Apple could do. You've got the idea that Netflix are now trying to get in that territory. There's a lot of people right now who are saying gaming is big. There are billions of gamers. If you want to, keep the barrier to entry as low as it can go, how do we get at them? And the answer in a lot of those major companies, those billion-dollar corporations' heads, is you take away all those other barriers to entry, like the pieces of plastic and circuit boards and whatnot that costs $500-$600. But it's those pieces of plastic and circuit boards and other bits and pieces, conductors, that get millions of people spending hundreds of dollars and make them the big players. More big in inverted commas. So it's a really tricky one. And when you iron out the amount of people that are clearly sniffing around it, like there were multiple times in this conversation where I thought I knew who you were talking about, and we were talking about 4 different companies.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
Sega could be a fascinating one. If they came back into the console market and really focused on, obviously they've got a decent IP stable, but if they focused on the quirkiness, especially of like, you talk about the Saturn and the Dreamcast era, like quirky games, like fucking. I think that's where they could kind of corner a market, but I don't think that they'd have great market share. No, the market share would be trash.
I don't know I don't know if it fits in with Business 101, where like, let's return to the business that almost put us out of business 20 years later.
Yeah.
I think it would be quite fun though. You're saying about Sega. It made me think that it'd be quite fun if a company came out with like a retro styled console that had like big cartridges, like SNES sort of size cartridges, but they just had like could just have like a small little SSD, like an SD card in the middle.
Well, there was the Atari thing that they recently did, right? It's just a really powerful computer.
Okay.
There's another company trying to do it, and they're in all kinds of trouble. What's the company that Tommy Tallarico's bit was fronting until he got ousted like this year?
Tommy Tallarico's not a real name, mate.
It is, and do you know why I know he's a real dude? Because he's the originator of the what's that Roblox oof sound, and he's the reason it's not in the game anymore. He's basically like he's like an OG, like an old school like video game soundtrack guy who wrote like classic soundtracks through like the 90s, and worked on a bunch of like massive games through the 80s and 90s. It was the Intellivision Amico, which as of July has been delayed 3 times and is in all kinds of financial trouble, and there are doubts about whether or not it's even real and whether or not it's going to come out. But that's them. They're trying to bank on that Intellivision name. And it's not quite cartridge based like Jonesy said, but it was like basically the controllers are like mini smartphones. So people have like a touchscreen element that they're familiar with, and it's all about couch co-op. So every single Intellivision Amico comes with like at least 2 controllers, and it's something weird thing where like every single game that goes on the platform has to have couch co-op, and they really want it to be like this old school console where people gather around the the TV like they used to. But it also seems like it might just be snake oil.
Sounds like it. Coming from the guy that made the oof sound.
he's massively qualified to make this because he made the oof sound. So that's all good.
I mean,
but that you just kind of gave me an interesting idea. Like if Roblox had to release their own console that was like, it's got Roblox and fucking all the fucking Roblox games,
that would be absolutely huge.
Yeah,
you would literally get every child immediately would be like, I know what I want for Christmas.
Yeah, the Roblox console, please.
Because I think
The Roblox
box. You call it, the Roblox box.
Roblox box.
The Roblox box.
Just have it as a multicolored box, like almost big Rubik's cube that just sits.
Just have it as one of the dudes with the big fucking shoulders. Looks so fucking weird. Anyway,
I got an advert for what's that? It's like that coffee company that begins with L. It's like Levezzi or something.
Oh, Lavazza.
I keep getting ads on Twitch for like that coffee company have made their own game in Roblox to like promote their coffee, and now they're running ads on Twitch that is for not Roblox but their game within Roblox.
But that's not why they're selling coffee to children.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know.
Kids don't. Well, actually, because if kids drink coffee, they can play more games.
Nailed it.
Look, I found it. Lavazza Arena on Roblox. So it's Lavazza, the Italian coffee company, founded in 1895, and they have created a thing called Lavazza Arena, which is a game in Roblox that you can Download and start playing right now.
It is so fun when you talk to like a grandparent about Roblox and they're like, "Oh my, your kid wanted Roblox for Christmas," and you're like, "It's not a thing. You can't buy Roblox."
There's so much going on here that it's hard to unpack. Like, this is one of those things where like a marketing team have got so confused they've mashed everything together. Listen to this. So again, this is Lavazza, the coffee company.
Yeah.
Play and learn about preserving Amazonia. A new Roblox game by Lavazza. It presents its first deforested football field in the metaverse. So it's a Roblox game made by a coffee company that is promoting education about deforestation by setting the arena in the metaverse's first deforested football field. The game is inspired by a Lavazza Foundation project in Peru that involves reforestation activities. Roblox is an online platform that combines virtual games and social interactions.
That's insane.
Fill out the form to receive a special code of 250 beans to redeem in the game.
But do you know what that is? That's someone high up in Lavazza where they're like, "Oh no, we need a Web3 and a metaverse strategy," and no one knows what to do because they're all fucking 80 years old. So then the one dude who's in charge of it, like the fucking director of AR and VR initiatives at Lavazza, went and asked his grandson, like, "What am I doing?" And the grandson's like, "Roblox."
You're doing? I like football. And then he's like, "What do kids like? Green stuff, deforestation. We don't want to get rid of the trees. What else do we like? Metaverse, because that's got also, a lot of money behind it."
It's so bizarre.
You can't have like the first deforested field in the metaverse because that implies that you just built a forest and then deleted trees in a square. Like, that's not deforestation. Like,
no, but
just don't build the trees to begin with.
I wonder if they mean rather than deforesting an actual acre of trees in the real world, they're deforesting an acre of trees in the metaverse. So
yeah, but hang on,
don't cut the trees down.
The problem kicking off in the Amazon isn't that we keep knocking down all the trees to make football pitches.
No, it's not. It's the palm oil or something, isn't it?
So they're creating a problem that doesn't exist within a virtual world where the problem doesn't exist either.
I can't wait for the virtual activists in Roblox just boycotting Lavazza because they deforested a virtual forest.
It reminds me of something I told Chris about earlier, which was I regularly on Twitter get like random bots message me, and it will be like some bird in like a skimpy outfit, like, you know, everything's spilling out, and the text above it will just say, "Do you like my Pokemon anime?" And it's like, it's what? This doesn't make any sense. These don't go together. And then you realize it's a bot putting together things that trend. So like attractive women in skimpy clothing, the words Pokemon, the words anime, and it smashes everything together at an attempt for engagement. And do you know what?
Roblox, deforestation, football, coffee. Yeah.
Smash. And it works. You get thirsty people under the messages going, "I love deforestation. I love football. I want to play in the metaverse."
See, I'd find the connection a lot more tangible if people ever said any of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the latest from the world of coffee. Lads, we've got one fairly chunky news story to get to around the corner. So I reckon let's knock out this slightly more, not necessarily silly one, but slightly more Ubisoft one.
Say no more.
before we get into the heavy hitters, because as has been the trend over the past couple of weeks, actually, in fact, that the last couple of years, maybe even decades, Ubisoft continue to not be able to keep anything secret, and as is also weirdly often the case, it still continues to largely be their fault.
Yeah. So the last time was the new Assassin's Creed, right? So what have they done this time?
Well,
Jamie?
There are two things this time. First is the latest from the world of The Division. So you guys might remember The Division Heartland that was announced all the way back in, I think it was announced sometime last year, actually. But basically it was announced and then we didn't see it for ages. A Ubisoft store page for it went up very briefly and then came back down. So we now know a lot more about what The Division Heartland is. And we can probably guess that assuming the Ubisoft live stream scheduled for this weekend goes ahead, it will be there. Do you want to know what The Division Heartland is?
What was that free-to-play thing, right? It was meant to be.
Yes, exactly. It's a free-to-play survival action multiplayer shooter set in small-town Middle America. The things we've now had confirmed are that the game's primary mode is a 45-player PvEVP mode, And there's also going to
so what Dark Zone basically.
Yeah, Dark Zone, which in itself kind of has a bit of a Tarkov ring to it, right? With like risk reward, get in, get out, exfiltrate. Yes, there are AI bad guys. There are also real bad guys.
Because you know what the thing works really well with Ubisoft is when they chase trends. Like
that is
battle
true.
royales or extraction games.
To be fair, considering Battlefield completely fucked it up, Call of Duty haven't got around to it yet. If Ubisoft got a Tarkov-like game out there now-ish, it would be pretty good for their track record. Not great, but better for them. Not bad.
Problem is they just wouldn't tell anyone that they'd released it. So even if it was good, no one would play it.
Do you know that happened the other day? Do you know what Ubisoft released the other day?
What?
I think it's a battle royale game on mobile that was at one point a Far Cry game.
What? What?
Yeah, I've got a. It's called like it's got some super generic name. That I'm.
Tom Clancy's X-Defined Mobile.
So I found
Far
it.
Cry edition.
This week, Ubisoft released a new mobile game called Wild Arena Survivors. That is out now on iOS and Google Play stores, and it's a 40-player battle royale title. The thing that is the most interesting thing about Wild Arena Survivors, and you might have guessed this if you look at the font of the title, is that it was at one point a Far Cry spin-off that got abandoned and then turned into this.
That's weird, man. That name sounds like some kind of fucking, like King or Zynga would come up with a game and then like 5 developers removed try and cash in on the trend.
Right, yeah.
But they're developers from Poland that are like 2 people. It sounds like something like that. Like,
I mean, when you read what the story of this game, it actually doesn't stray that far from what you just said, Chris. This is coming from VGC.com. The site sources claim that the game was originally given a soft launch without any Far Cry branding in an attempt to see if it could prove successful on its own merit. When this soft launch didn't gather any momentum, the decision was reportedly made to release the game globally without any major fanfare in an attempt to recoup some development costs, which just feels like Ubisoft to a T of late.
But it's just like,
what the fuck?
A big red button that says launch, but you don't tell anybody that you're launching.
Get this. The site notes that none of Ubisoft's main social media accounts have made mention of the game, and while it does have its own social media accounts, they're modest. The Twitter account has 306 followers at the time of writing.
Why do they keep doing this? They keep making games, releasing them, and not telling anyone they've come out, and then saying, "Oh, look, we didn't make any money because no one played or bought our game." Yeah, you didn't tell anybody. What? They've done this so many times recently.
Yeah, and yet, who was it? NetEase or Tencent that bought a 49% stake in Ubisoft?
It's one of you said it. I can't remember which one of you said it. I think you're absolutely right. Bang on genius. That it is all a con. That there is something they're somehow swindling money somewhere. Like with those people who make the films, that there's no intention of anyone watching them, but they get such high tax breaks they end up make money just from making the film. I think Ubisoft are doing some weird, dodgy shit like that.
Maybe. The Guillemot brothers up to their old tricks.
You said 304 people follow the Twitter.
306 people at the time of writing, yeah.
307. Not a fucking chance.
VGC have said it's not clear if Wild Arena Survivors will get an official launch announcement at the Ubisoft Forward presentation on September 10th, which is Saturday. But yeah.
Honestly, that's so fucking weird, man.
And you know what? To bring it back to the news, I really hope that doesn't happen to the Division Heartland, because the idea of a free-to-play Division experience that has the same core fundamentals and same essence of the Division game, without any really nasty free-to-play trappings, no pay-to-win bullshit, I'd be down for like a fair free-to-play Division game that's like well supported and has a good player base. So I hope they don't fuck that up.
Do you think they could be running the? I can't remember the name of the horror video franchise. Is it Blumhouse? I think it is. Where the idea is you produce such low cost. So maybe the idea is they produce the games for like as low as money as possible. They don't put any money into marketing. They release them, and if they pop off and they make their money, then happy days. But if they don't, who cares? We didn't spend any money on it. Do you reckon there's a possibility?
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
I would believe that if it weren't for the scale or the ever increasing scale of the other leak that happened to Ubisoft this week, which is takes us back to Assassin's Creed Infinity. Now we all know that Assassin's Creed Mirage is the kind of the game that was formerly DLC that is now a fully fledged title that is probably going to come out in Q1 or Q2 of early next year. The word on the street is that at this Ubisoft Forward showcase, we're all going to also get our first look at Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is kind of this big games as a service platform style Assassin's Creed game that titles and stories and locations are going to get added to. Insiders, including the likes of Jason Schreier and Tom Henderson and Jeff Grubb, are now very confident that we're going to see the first two of these at the showcase. One of them I think we'd already discussed before, which is codenamed Red, and set to take place in feudal Japan. That's being developed by Ubisoft Quebec, who are the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team. The other one, which we have now had more details on, is the game that Ubisoft Montreal, who made Origins and Valhalla, are working on, which is formerly codenamed Neo and now codenamed Hex, apparently, which revolves around the witch trials during the latter stages of the Holy Roman Empire, which I don't know much about, but some people said sounds cool. And apparently, the way it's been described is it's meant to be the darkest Assassin's Creed game that has been made thus far.
It's always the darkest this and it's the darkest that, isn't it? Like, fuck off. When you said the witch trials, I thought like Salem, and I thought actually that could be pretty wicked.
That would also be cool.
Yeah.
Anything to do with witches. Where I mean, I feel like we've had a conversation like this at least once a week for the last 6 months. But if I were to get the smoke on the street from either of you right now, ironically knowing everything that we know ahead of this showcase, where are you at with Mirage and with the future of Assassin's Creed looking like it's going to be with Infinity? Are you in or out, basically?
That's a Jonesy question, because the only Assassin's Creed that I enjoyed, hands up, is Odyssey. So, yeah.
I'm hopeful for Mirage. Like we were saying, it's nice that they're saying that they're going to go back to their roots a bit with like a stealth-based Assassin's Creed title. Like I'm in for that. I want to see how that pans out, even though it was supposed to be DLC and it's like said it's Basim from Valhalla. That's, to me, sounds like it could be a fun time, and it could bring a bunch of people on board who've been a bit put off by the old RPG turn that Assassin's Creed's taken. Like that, it's cool. I've enjoyed it, but I am definitely one of those people who sometimes is like, I don't need 30 hours of Assassin's Creed. Like I'd rather slim back a bit, and some of the RPG stuff I could leave. So yeah, hopefully that'll be a cool time. I'm so weirded out and torn by what they're doing with like Infinity and how everything's going to fit together.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely am like, the other thing when you said about Red, codename Red, I know we heard, it was in Japan before, but every time I hear that, I just can't help but think they must be so pissed off that Ghost of Tsushima came out and was such a successful title, because they're just going to be pegged against that. And I don't think they're going to meet. I don't think they're going to get to the same place, let alone surpass what Ghost of Tsushima did, based on where Assassin's Creed has been in the past and recently. I'm sure it'll be cool. I'm sure it'll look good. I'm sure the RPG elements will be, all the way rammed through it. But I just think it's going to just look worse based against Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
But the last one, Hex, sounds the setting sounds great, but I don't know much else about the Holy Roman Empire and the witch trials.
Me neither. And I do think you kind of tapped in something interesting there, which part of me worries that they're going to completely shoot themselves in the foot with everything they're doing at the moment. But they're going to announce Mirage, a once DLC, shorter, tighter, smaller, more old school Assassin's Creed. People are going to go crazy for it and say, this is the Assassin's Creed we always wanted. And then Ubisoft are going to go, oops, we've got some bad news. Everything else we're making is a 60-hour-long RPG.
Yeah, I never thought of that. You're so right. They're going to do it, and almost like it's like negative marketing. So not only are they not doing marketing for some of their games, they're negatively marketing their future games.
It is a risk to announce simultaneously the game that fans have been asking for and two more titles that they absolutely haven't. Even if sales numbers suggest that Red and Hex will be fine.
This is what I'm saying. You say they haven't been asking for it, but
Yeah, there are as many. I have to remind myself that there are as many old school.
But I wonder
fans as
if there's a sliding scale of what they're doing with Infinity, right? Where you can have experiences that are like Mirage and like
That's gotta be right.
AC 1 and 2 and to degree 3, and then on the other end of the scale, it's like, oh yeah, and this is the slightly bigger one that's more Odyssey, Origins, Valhalla style.
Yeah.
It would
I've
be
got to
interesting if they
imagine that's
go
the
that
case.
route, but then how do you communicate that in a centralized hub that
Right.
someone logs into?
And how long? What does Infinity cost on its own, and how long is it around for? Those are the questions.
I reckon Infinity is going to be this big brain here. Infinity is going to be free. Like one of those two is going to be free. Second one's going to be paid for, or there's going to be some kind of a subscription service.
Interesting. I mean, Ubisoft.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, Ubisoft are not averse to subscriptions as well. They've experimented that plenty in the past. So we'll find out if we get some more answers on Saturday night. But until then, it remains a mystery. Something that else is a bit of a mystery, and the last thing I think we should discuss before we get to bed this evening, and our listeners and watchers can get on with the rest of their days or evenings.
Separately, not together. Just
well, I mean, let's leave something up to the imagination. People don't know what happens. Like when I walk through that door, for example.
Yeah, you come out this door over here.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually live. We all live together. This is the thing that people don't know. Like Anthony Fantano, like sits in a chair, and people didn't realize that when he did the fucking needle drop reviews, and when he revealed it, he's like, oh my god, are you mad? And actually, we all live in the same house.
I'm in the bedroom.
It's a streamer house. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a streamer house.
Chris is stood up right now. He has been stood up the whole time. Well, one thing that's for sure is if we did live together, I'm sure we'd find plenty of ways to continue fighting with each other in spite of how much we loved each other. And that, I'd like to think, is exactly what's happening in a weirdly public fashion now, albeit in a slightly more back and forth way rather than a tete-a-tete, when it comes to the back and forth between Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan of Microsoft and Xbox and Sony and PlayStation, respectively. And the thing they're arguing over, guys, in true 2010 open mic lobby fashion, is Call of Duty. Although no one's mum is getting fucked as of yet, from what I gather.
Man, this is fascinating, isn't it? I have a pretty strong opinion on it, but yeah, okay. I'd be keen to know your guys' ones.
Yeah, so let's do a little bit of a background, and then Chris, maybe we'll jump straight in with what you have to say. But for anyone who hasn't got quite up to speed with what's going on yet, some of this ties into what we've been talking about in recent weeks and months about how Microsoft are obviously in the middle of a deal to acquire Activision Blizzard. It's currently being scrutinized by regulators who are concerned about a potential antitrust issues and the increasing consolidation that's going on in the gaming industry. So the deal is somewhat under a microscope at the moment. And as a result of that microscope, Microsoft have had to push back a little bit on some of the pressure they've come under for those antitrust and anti-competitive issues, which has led to Phil Spencer himself making some statements about the plans that they have for certain franchises. Like, for example, certain franchises, whether or not they're going to end up on Game Pass in the future, and also the extent to which certain franchises are going to continue to pop up on other platforms. Specifically, obviously, the big elephant in the room, will Call of Duty continue to come to PlayStation platforms? So in a statement to The Verge, Xbox boss Phil Spencer said that Microsoft had committed to making the series available on PlayStation for several more years, that's the quote, after Sony's current marketing deal with Activision expires. For anyone wondering, the current deal for Call of Duty between Sony and Activision Blizzard is believed to cover this year's Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2 whenever that comes out, and the new game from Treyarch that at present is believed to be coming out in 2024, not 2023. So what Phil Spencer is saying, those 3 games, and then 3 more years after that, and then, hey, it'll probably start being an exclusive. He thinks that's a pretty generous offer.
Maybe it'll be exclusive. Maybe. Like, I don't think anything's cast in stone. Like, yeah, exactly. But they're saying, like, hey, this is what we can promise you now, but things might change.
Also worth noting that Phil Spencer promised feature and content parity, so he's also not planning any bullshit where, like, this map is only on Xbox. He's being, he thinks, pretty generous and pretty fair. Someone who disagrees with him is Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan, who called Microsoft's proposal for keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles for those 3 years, quote, inadequate on many levels. And Jim Ryan went on to actually take a couple of shots at Phil Spencer for actually making this whole thing public. This is a quote. "I hadn't intended to comment on what I understood to be a private business discussion, but I feel the need to set the public record straight because Phil Spencer brought it into this public forum. After almost 20 years of Call of Duty on PlayStation, their proposal was inadequate on many levels and failed to take account of the impact on our gamers. We want to guarantee PlayStation gamers continue to have the highest quality Call of Duty experience, and Microsoft's proposal undermines that principle." So yes, what started as Phil Spencer going to the press and thinking he was being pretty reasonable over the future of a franchise that he could theoretically own, and Xbox could theoretically own, has led to the clause coming out between the two biggest players outside of Nintendo in the traditional home console market. Chris, I mean, you sounded like you had a hot take ready to dive straight in with.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it's that much of a hot take. I think Phil Spencer is coming across as a bit of a king, as usual, as he does, and Jim Ryan is coming across as like a petulant child, and is being quite petty about everything, in my opinion. It's just bizarre, man. Honestly, like fucking hell. First of all, Jim Ryan, I feel is like, he's that guy on every football team that just cannot help himself but just score own goals.
Yes, increasingly more so. Yeah, with each passing month, it feels.
Yeah, like I'm sure, like the higher ups in like Sony Japan, just every time Jim Ryan opens his mouth before he starts uttering the words, they just kind of like shake their heads and be like, "Fuck, what now?" I don't know, man. Like it feels like Jim Ryan and Sony's position is like, again, like we mentioned before, just a little bit, just flat out wrong, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to like articulate it more than that. It's just like,
you're wrong, bro.
I think the wording is like, because Jonesy, I don't know if this is how you feel about it, but like, us three have had plenty of conversations, obviously, over the last however many months it's been, about whether or not this deal is inherently anti-competitive and creates a monopoly and so on and so forth, and whether or not it should go through. I don't think there's anything wrong with Jim Ryan being scared about the prospect of this being the last PlayStation generation that doesn't have the world's biggest console franchise on it, and as such, fighting tooth and nail to keep it. But to make like weirdly catty comments about like, "Oh, I don't know why Phil Spencer's bringing business conversations into public, but now he's doing it," and then making weird points about like a proposal can't be inadequate when it's just them being generous on something that they don't even need to do.
Hold on. Like, I think you can put your terms like generous away. I don't think it's got anything to do with
it. It is generous. If
it'll be very lucrative.
If the various anti-competition people around the world are like, "Yep, this is all good. Microsoft and Xbox can acquire Activision Blizzard," Phil Spencer would be well within his rights to say, "Yep, that's the end of Call of Duty on PlayStation. See you later."
No,
to honor the current deal and to give them 3 extra years, I don't think that's not generous.
I don't think it's got anything to do with generosity. I think realistically, I think what this is about is okay. I'll give Jim Ryan a little olive branch from what he said. Is that when he said that he thought it was a private conversation about business dealings and he doesn't know why Phil Spencer's brought it into the public domain, I'm with him there. Like, that's fair enough. You can think that was not public. When you say that, when they say that they're the deal with Activision Blizzard, assuming it goes through, right? They've got, like we said, they've got Modern Warfare 2, then they've got Call of Duty 24, and they've got Warzone 2 coming out, and then 3 more years. Realistic, and if we're then saying because of some of the bad performances that Call of Duty games have had as of late, like mainly looking at Vanguard, maybe not performing as well as they'd hoped. If you start to consider that maybe Call of Duty isn't released year on year and is maybe going to be released, I don't know, like slightly less regularly, or maybe we'll just go back to like every year. You're looking at the end of this generation. You're looking at the end of PlayStation 5. You're looking at the end of the Xbox Series X, Series S. So realistically, I think what Phil Spencer is saying is Call of Duty is going to be alive and well on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S. But when you come to make your decision about whether or not you buy a PlayStation 6 or whether or not you buy Xbox blah, we're going to help you make that decision because, hey, Call of Duty is an exclusive to the Xbox and it's going to be exclusive on Game Pass. And he's hoping to swing a whole load of people over then. So I don't think he needs to make that decision. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's generous. he's going to get a lot of money out of PlayStation to keep those games coming onto Sony until the end of the console life. And then when it actually matters, when they want to really shift some audience away from PlayStation towards Xbox, I think that's when they're going to make their big play.
But at the same time, like that's fucking fair. That's you buy these companies to put yourself in a better position.
Mate, it's clever. It's fair play to Phil Spencer. It's a clever play. I think I've said a few times, like I don't think any of this is anti-competition or breaches antitrust, because I don't, and I know people disagree with me, like in our Discord and on our comments, and I appreciate their opinions. I just slightly in a different place where I don't believe Call of Duty as a product constitutes like a genre or a whole area of gaming that has to be across platform. I think if you buy it and you want to keep it onto your platform, I think that's fine. What I would have wanted Jim Ryan to do in this instance is to come out and say, it's unfortunate Phil Spencer said this in public. I don't think he should have done, but hey, PlayStation are the leading brand for AAA titles. We've got Naughty Dog. We've got Sony Santa Monica. We are bringing you the greatest single player games. And Call of Duty's, it's waned a little bit. We still want to have it on the Sony PlayStation.
Yeah. Spin it positively for your brand.
100%.
Maybe
not be petty about it.
Maybe throw a cheeky reminder about the fact that, hey, like the console that still sells the most, that is, direct linked to the most sales of Call of Duty, it's still PlayStation.
Yes.
And like losing PlayStation, you might be losing up to 10 million copies of Call of Duty sold every year. Of course, Phil Spencer will have the swing in his mind, Josie, that you mentioned, the generational swing, but still.
And
but you can't convert that many people.
Even the generational swing, like it might not be. It might be limited timed exclusive if that's the case, because you're losing out on a shit ton of money keeping it off of any platform. And these are smart people, like their bottom line is let's make money. That's fucking business.
Totally.
That's mate. I just want to say that's a damn good point, because of course what they could do is they could release the new Xbox, see what happens with the swing if it has an effect, and then they can announce, oh, actually we're bringing it back. 6 months after, 7 months after, whatever they want. And they've already taken a whole load of audience. That's a very good point. They don't have to make it.
While continuing to regularly promote and advertise the fact that if you owned an Xbox or a PC, you'd be playing it free with Game Pass anyway.
Yes,
which is still more money in their pocket.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to get you guys' take on something, because it's something that I was discussing with Jonesy earlier today over lunch.
I'm still not getting used to hearing that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So from Sony's perspective, okay. So it's going to be, let me try and explain it before you kind of get into it, okay? And it is a bit of a stretch, I know, but let's hypothesize here, okay? Or do mind exercises, whatever. Okay. Insomniac Games make Spider-Man on the PS4, but they are not owned at that point by Sony, okay? So, but what Insomniac Games decide to do, because they work out a contract, whatever, they release a PS4 exclusive game. Okay, never mind that it's eventually comes to PC.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sony acquires Insomniac Games, okay, outright. You are now a first party developer for Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Does Phil Spencer look at that and say, well, that's fucking unfair? I want Spider-Man 2 on Xbox. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. To me, it feels like in a similar kind of way.
No,
though
that's not the same, because he wants Insomniac to be on PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's different. It's different to Jim Ryan.
It's mental,
I think Ryan, the key point of Ryan's argument relative to, say, maybe the Spider-Man or the Insomniac hypothetical is the thing that the first half a sentence that he opened his argument with. After almost 20 years of Call of Duty on PlayStation, I think there is maybe a fear within Jim Ryan that this is something I can relate to. I don't know about Jonesy maybe as well to a certain extent, but like having a Call of Duty game on whatever console you own that cycle, that generation, just feels like second nature. It's that thing that comes out every year, and it's there if you want it, it's there if you don't. The campaign will be solid, the multiplayer will be fun for a little while. Like, you might get it for, if you don't pick it up in October or November, you'll probably get it for Christmas. It's just kind of like Call of Duty for me is part of the furniture. And I can identify as someone who, if I go PS6 next generation and all of a sudden I just don't have Call of Duty anymore, that will be kind of like, that will take some adjustment, and I'll have to think about what I do to circumvent that problem. Now I'm maybe a slightly fringe case compared to some other.
Yeah,
people
it won't matter, Jamie, because in your monitor will be Xbox Cloud baked in, and that's the way you'll be playing it.
I have played both Warzone and Vanguard inside the last 2 weeks, and when I played both of them, I played it with groups of people who, when this deal goes through, and if Phil Spencer, pulls Call of Duty off PlayStation at that point, none of the people I played either Vanguard or Warzone with in this past week or two will play Call of Duty ever again as a result. Like I
don't think you have anything to worry about, fellas, because the planet's going to be on fire in 6 years' time anyway. So
6 years' time, yeah. But there's also this is such a big deal that I still feel like I come across people who don't get it, and like someone in that same group of people, I had to explain to them. This was slightly longer ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had to explain to them that Starfield wasn't coming to PlayStation, and they didn't get it. And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "The team that make Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, their new game, that sci-fi thing, is not going to be on PlayStation." And it was like it turned their world upside down. That will keep happening. I think stuff like that will keep happening over because
but
that's just the nature of it.
That's always happened.
That's why this is not just the biggest gaming acquisition of all time, but this is the biggest tech acquisition of all time. Bigger than fucking WhatsApp and shit, and all those other, and Slack being bought for like $20 billion. Get in the sea. This is the biggest tech acquisition of all time.
There is one weird point with this, which I wouldn't be surprised on, which is the reason it's the biggest acquisition of all time is because of where COD is at and where Activision Blizzard are at. But I wouldn't be that surprised if in 7 years' time the prospect was kind of different. And do you know what? Warzone, Call of Duty, they were not the Goliath they are today. And actually, PlayStation of the future are looking back and going, I'm not sure why we were so worried about it. But on the other hand of that, of course, as I think Chris just mentioned, I think one of the fundamental differences in 7 years' time as well will be your options to play video games will be more fluid. Maybe you won't be tied onto playing it on like a console. So if you really wanted to play Call of Duty, it might be a much more simple process of saying, "Hey, I've got the Xbox app on my TV, and I can pay for it for a month and play it." Because whilst I don't think any of these things breach anti-competition, I don't think they should be stopped by respective governments from doing it. I would love all of my fellow gamers to be able to play the games they like wherever they can play them. Like I have no desire for any of these things to happen, even at the same time, while I don't have any, like from a business perspective, I don't think they should be stopped from doing it. I think it's kind of part of the course, but I don't want like the guys you are playing Warzone with. I don't want them to not be able to play Warzone. That sucks.
To be fair, they will have opportunities, and I will tell them like this is the easiest way you can play Call of Duty this year. I think a lot of them will just be stubborn.
Right.
There are certain people out there who are like, "Oh, what do you mean I can just like sign up to this service for £7 a month and then stream it, and maybe in 7 years' time that's like a totally viable idea and like a fine way to play even a competitive PvP first-person shooter." But there are also some people in that group who are just like, if it's not a game that I just sit on my couch and play on my PlayStation, I'm not interested. That's how they feel. That's the vibe I get from them at the moment.
Don't you think by removing that known quantity, it breeds opportunity, right? Like you look at, like, who would have thought that EA would have given up the FIFA license?
It's true. Do
you know what I mean? And yet, like, from what's his face, Andrew was saying, like, hey, there's opportunities here, and that we can actually make it better by taking the shackles off. I'm always reminded of each time, kind of to keep on going with that football slant, each time the World Cup comes around and Adidas is the sponsor of the World Cup and Nike isn't, and Nike fucking crushes it. Because why? Because they don't have the shackles of FIFA.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
So actually, it might not be a bad thing necessarily for PlayStation. It might be something else happen. They move on.
Yeah, exactly. And we've already got like all these reports that PlayStation are investing heavily in studios to create games as a service, etc. So
yeah,
fuck it, man. Like if you don't have Warzone, make the fucking Warzone.
Yeah, and you might get something better.
Just don't buy Ubisoft to do it.
Exactly. Oh, dearie me. And on that note, I think we just about made it through that one, right? It was a good chat.
More than made it through, yeah.
Yeah. that, I guess, is the end. I don't know. Like, it feels kind of weird. Like, it feels like something needs to happen. Like a bell needs to ring, or someone needs to say something. Jonesy, say something definitive and closing in nature, please.
That's it, folks.
You heard it here first. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. This has been another action-packed, star-studded episode of the Super Show podcast. We'll be back once again, same place, same time next week if you want to hear more gaming action. And by that point, I will remind you that the Ubisoft Forward Showcase will have happened. The Disney Gaming Showcase will have happened. So there's going to be plenty of gaming news and reveals for us to break down. So make sure you tune in. We're on YouTube or on podcasting. Maybe a Sony State of Play, say it quietly. Maybe a State of Play, but there's definitely not going to be a State of Play.
Yeah, not with 10 days of mourning, fellas.
Oh, yeah, there won't be a State of Play. I forgot about that already. There won't be a State of Play.
But State of Play or no State of Play, there will be games to talk about it. We will be talking about them on YouTube, on podcasting platforms of your choice, and we will continue to be able to do both of those things because of your support on patreon.com/SuperShow. And with that, I bid you farewell. Chris, Jonesy, thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. It's been a wild one, and I'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.